Welcome to Living Letters Podcast, a media ministry from Arcadia Methodist Church. Over the next 8 weeks, we are going to be looking at the topic of prayer. It's called When We Pray. Prayer sometimes can feel mysterious. We know we should pray, but often we wonder, how do I trust when the answer seems delayed? What do I do when I have no words? How can I find peace when my heart is anxious? So over the next 8 weeks, we'll discover that prayer is not simply something we do. It is a relationship we grow in. Together, we'll learn how to trust, how to listen, how to stay awake to God's presence, and how to rest in the confidence that He hears us. So wherever you are, driving down a country road, sitting quietly with a cup of coffee, or listening at the end of a long day, take a deep breath. Let's begin. Welcome to week 2 of When We Pray. This week we're looking at Romans chapter 8, verse 26. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. There are moments in life when words simply won't come. The grief is too deep, the confusion too tangled, or the exhaustion too heavy. You kneel to pray, or maybe you just sit, staring at the ceiling, and nothing comes out. All you can offer is silence, maybe a sigh, a tear, a groan you can't quite explain. It's in these very moments that Paul's words in Romans 8:26 breathe hope. The Spirit helps us in our weakness. When we don't know what to say, the Spirit does. When our hearts are too weary to speak, heaven still hears. Prayer isn't something we always do well. It's something we are drawn into, and sometimes the holiest prayers are the ones we never say out loud. Most of us don't like weakness. We try to overcome it, hide it, or push through it. But Paul insists that weakness is not a disqualification in prayer. It's the very context in which the Spirit works. Notice what he says, we do not know what we ought to pray for. That's not a statement of failure, it's one of honesty. God isn't impressed by our polished words or long lists. He's moved by our surrender. Weakness opens the door to dependence. When we come before God without the right words or formulas, we're finally praying as children, honestly, vulnerably, and without performance. The Spirit doesn't scold us for not knowing how to pray. He helps us. The Greek word Paul uses for help, symbolalathi, literally means to take hold together with. It paints a picture of someone stepping under the weight you're struggling to carry, lifting it with you. That's prayer in weakness. The Spirit stepping in to carry what we can't. When we pray, we're not speaking alone. The Spirit of God, the same Spirit who hovered over the waters at creation, who raised Jesus from the dead, intercedes for us. And not with eloquence or precision, but with groans too deep for words. That phrase is powerful. It means there are dimensions of human pain and longing that language cannot contain, but the Spirit can. He translates the ache of our hearts into divine communion. Every sigh, every tear, every restless night can become prayer through Him. Think of it. The Spirit doesn't just assist your prayers. He inhabits them. You are never praying solo. When you whisper, Lord, I don't even know what to say, heaven answers. That's enough. The Spirit knows. Even your silence is sacred. We live in a world obsessed with noise and clarity, but prayer often takes us into the mystery of the unspoken. There's a quiet kind of faith that grows when we learn to sit in God's presence without trying to fix or explain everything. Sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is simply show up. When words run out, rest in the assurance that you are being prayed for and through. The Spirit's groaning is not a substitute for your prayer. It's a continuation of it. It's the divine dialogue happening beneath your awareness, deep calling to deep. And notice the context of this verse. In Romans 8, Paul talks about creation groaning, believers groaning, and the Spirit groaning. All creation is longing for redemption and our prayers, fueled by the Spirit. And they become part of that cosmic ache for renewal. Your sighs, your tears, your longing, all join the chorus of heaven's hope. What if prayer isn't always meant to be word heavy? What if prayer, at its core, is presence, being with God more than talking at Him? When you sit in quiet awareness of His nearness, you are praying. When you cry and can't explain why, you are praying. When you drive in silence after receiving hard news and your heart aches in God's direction, that too is prayer. The Spirit teaches us to move from performance to presence. Over time, our prayer life deepens, and because we say more, but because we trust more. Even Jesus modeled this in Gethsemane. His prayers were raw and repetitive. Father, if it is possible, he prayed until the words gave way to surrender. On the cross even, his cry of abandonment, my God, why have you forsaken me, was prayer, honest, unfiltered, holy. If Jesus could pray in anguish, then we too can let our weaknesses be a place where prayer lives. Prayer is not meant and measured by how much we say, but how much we trust. When our words fall short, the Spirit steps in, not as a translator of our intellect, but as an interpreter of our hearts. He prays for us when we can't. He carries our petitions when we're too tired. He turns our groaning into grace. So, don't be discouraged when prayer feels empty or incomplete. In that emptiness, the Spirit fills the gap. Even silence can echo with heaven's voice. Next week, we're going to be looking at Philippians 4:6 as we continue on when we pray.